Now might be a good time to start asking a little bit more specific questions about how dream symbolism works. How does the unconscious take these things that you're thinking about for one reason or another, because you were traumatized in your childhood, or because you're a scientist working on the structure of benzene molecule or the nervous system? How does your unconscious take these concepts, translate them into imagery that is meaningful to you?
I have an example. The one that I got from a book was, so this woman had an affair, and later on she had a dream and she visited her therapist. And the dream basically went like, she was driving down the street and there was a stoplight. The light was red and she didn't stop. She went right through it and went safely to the other side. And what her therapist said was, you did something unlawful and you got away with it. So that's one way you can interpret a dream.
Again, plenty of problems with Freud, but the important thing he did was talking about some of the rules of how the unconscious takes emotions, takes experiences, and translates them, or how it projects one sort of feeling onto another sort of feeling. The sensation of cheating and not being caught cheating is similar to the sensation of getting through a red light. And so your unconscious, this one sensation is very heavy on your mind when you're constructing dream scenarios based on whatever combination of nerve stimulus.
Amygdala.
Mr. What?
It's going to craft a scenario where you are doing something unlawful, dangerous, and getting away with it. Just to go over a few of the terms that I find helpful when I'm writing down my dreams, things like displacement. This would be the case of the red light. You are taking the meaning, the emotional weight, or just individual characteristics from one object and putting them on another. You have an interaction with someone in your dream that is a recreation or slight variation of an interaction you had in real life with a different person. That would be displacement. There's also condensation, where you combine several ideas into a single idea. I'll interact with a person who is like two people from my real life, or it'll be like a character from a TV show, but they have the same meaning to me as someone I know in real life, even though they look like this character from the TV show. And the third thing I want to talk about that is always helpful and often glossed over is secondary elaboration. The work you do when you are translating the abstract, atemporal ideas from a dream into something you tell somebody. So this would be cases of if you've ever had a dream where there's two scenes and you're not sure which one came first, but when you explain it to your therapist or when you write it down, you need to write down one first. And this changes the meaning of the dream. This changes how it embeds itself in your memory. Dreams, I'll reiterate, are not messages intended for the conscious mind. When you're interpreting dreams, you need to make artistic decisions how to tell the story. And that's going to change how you look back on the dream.
Right. And dreams are not calls to action. What you decide to do upon waking from the dream is what your own call to action is. There's so many different lenses of interpretation with dreams, right? There's a certain amount of like emotional volatility that you experience at the time of dreaming that will still affect how you interpret it later. But I think that like a common misconception is, and this is totally religious, right? And like just more theological, but I don't think that dreams have somebody telling you things that isn't yourself telling you things. I think that dreams are, I think that you are what you dream. I think that if somebody else is telling you something in your dream, then this is you telling yourself that somebody else is telling you this in your dream.
I'll agree to disagree.
Hot takes. I know. Hot takes.
That's the thing. I'll admit to being agnostic on that. That I don't know enough to know if there is something else besides you that's communicating to you in the dream world, or if it's just you.
Right.
So I can't prove to you anything, but it's like I don't completely buy that idea either. So I'm just kind of like, you might be right. I'm making room for just in case you might not be right.
Right. Well, and I think like one important thing that I think that all human beings like should stop doing is focusing on everybody else's interpretations of your dreams. Like, I know that that's very contradictive to say, like, when we're about to interpret each other's dreams.
No, that's
like,
right.
But yeah, I mean,
that.
like, you know, you're right. And even in my own self-righteousness, you're right, if that makes any sense, right? Like, when I put that through my translator, my ultimate view on dreaming and its functionality is that somehow it assists us. And I think that we get to decide how we are going to let it assist us. And I think that there's a lot of things that are just going to happen. Like, a lot of it's just an involuntary function. Like, I mean, that also just follows the neurocognitive model of dreaming, is that a lot of it is help that we are not going to be able to actually fully acknowledge. But whatever we attribute that help to being is completely, entirely subjective. If it helps you to think that somebody else is communicating to you through your dreams, then that is your reality, and that helps you.
I agree with the other statement you said that, like, no one's going to interpret your dreams better than yourself. I was reading in the Kabbalah book that in some cultures, you didn't really reach maturity until you were able to decipher your own dream symbols. I probably need to go back and read it again. But I don't know, it got really esoteric with it. Like, something to do with the moon, and like after like you have full understanding of your dreams, like you don't really need them anymore. You kind of can just interpret reality yourself.
Yeah. You interpret your dreams. Your dreams are things that you come up with. So I think that you interpret them. And
like, Freud made money off interpreting people's dreams, so he had his own profit incentives, but he was vocally like, no, dreams are not universal symbols. Sometimes a cigar is just a cigar. There was like a lady who came to him with a dream about a fish, and she's like, the fish is a Freudian symbol, right? I'm dreaming about a penis.
I'm dreaming about a penis.
Like, no, that's not how this works. I think his interpretation was like her mom was a Pisces, so this is a symptom of her electric complex, which equally crazy, but
makes me think of the Christian symbol too.
Right.
I was gonna say next, like, this is where people get Jung wrong a lot, is the archetypes.
The archetypes.
You'll say this dream reflects this archetype, but if somebody's not from a culture where these archetypes are articulated in this way, then that's a stupid thing to say. That's projecting your own values onto somebody else. Just like, I haven't read much Freud, I have not read much Jung. I know secondhand accounts. But as far as I know, Jung acknowledged that the archetypes are cultural products. They're subjective, they change over time, and they have different meaning from person to person. They're a personal expression, ultimately, and just like all dream work, you need to not try to recreate God in whatever psychoanalytic model you're working with. You need to engage it on an even more personal level than you would talk to someone normally, because normally we have language, we know what's going on in the world around us, we all know we're in the same room. But when you're in a dream, you're not in the same room. You have your own private reality that, again, that does engage with the outside. You can learn profound things about what's going on around you, about yourself, your relationship with other people. It's very personal.
We can also say that, like, your memory consolidation kind of sucks all the time, so you probably aren't remembering your dreams completely accurately. So whatever conscious interpretations you extrapolate from your dreams are going to be you honoring what is most true to you in your life, and what things are manifested out of your stressors, out of things that you value and hold to utmost importance, are going to be the things that ultimately will determine your quality of life. So yes, dreams guide you.
I wonder how many dreams I've written down that aren't completely accurate, because every time I wake up, I think I kind of question some of it too. Like, do I really remember exactly like I'm writing it right now, or is my memory kind of distorted right now?
This is well established that when you wake up, you cannot create the dream with any degree of accuracy. Dream logic is fundamentally different from waking logic.
But I remember a lot of it so vividly that I think some of it is right, just not. A big chunk of it definitely is wrong.
You have to take creative liberties in transcribing, and this was like Cormac McCarthy's conclusion from the Kakule problem, is that the unconscious doesn't know language. Like Lacan said, is structured like a language. Nick Land said if the unconscious is structured like a language, it's only because both the unconscious and language are structured like a virus. Again, it's not there for you. It's not trying to transmit information in ways that you understand. Chronology is mixed up. Sometimes things will contradict each other. Condensation, one person is also another person. And that's not something you can express in language without like going on tangents trying to justify. This is irrational. Details, even what you choose to include and omit, are significant. And this is why, here's the call to action for listeners. If you're keeping a dream journal, write it down as soon as you wake up.
Yes, right.
Because you want to do it while you're still in that like half asleep, half awake phase.
Also, don't just write down the dream. Write down your thoughts upon awakening.
Yeah, what's significant? I had a note on interpreting dreams in our waking cycle, right? A lot of this is also just keeping true with like what we'd already established, that our memory kind of sucks. And I think a lot of times we pin ourselves to a wall when we base the entire product of our dream on stuff that we can't remember. What's important to us right now, what we can do with ourselves right now, is what we can remember. And there's a lot that goes into trying to remember things that are just actually lost, right? We are very suggestible creatures. We can pull things out our asses where they don't exist, and we can connect dots that aren't there. So that's why I really double down on you interpret your dreams similarly to the way you interpret your thoughts in any given moment right now. You might not be able to interpret the dream as it happened last night, but you can interpret it based off of your current recollection. And so we forget most of our dreams. We forget most of events that happen when we are awake. We are generally not around to consolidate most things that actually happen to us, and especially when our amygdalas are activated. One thing that I'll bring this up, but also with the side note that I don't agree with activation synthesis theory, but
Activation synthesis theory?
Yeah, it's pretty much an entirely physiological explanation to dreaming that encompasses absolutely no unconscious thought processes. Like, it really pretty much just says your neural misfirings are completely random, and that what's that test? Is it Rorschach? Is that how you say it? Rorschach. You can say it better than me.
I've seen The Watchmen.
Well, yeah, pretty much the model of activation synthesis theory is that it's like a Rorschach test in the way that these are random things that happen. All of the signals are random, and we assign meaning to it afterwards.
So you don't agree with that?
I don't agree with it, but I do think that it is important to acknowledge what is neither here nor there. I think that there are a lot of dreams that are like, we exacerbate the content of our dreams with our own waking thoughts. And there's a lot of that happens. That's not to say that there isn't meaning in our dreams. Like, again, I am still a really strong supporter of the neurocognitive model because it says yes and no to everything. No, it's not just physiological, but no, it's not just because you want to fuck your dad and kill your mom. There's just like a lot of nuance to it. There's a lot of consolidation that happens that you will never be aware of, and you don't want to be aware of why your brain does all the things that it does.
It's a reason you have an unconscious that is separate from your conscious.
I heard something from, I don't know how you feel about him, but like, I remember Sam Harris, who was a neuroscientist, said like the ego doesn't really exist, and there's not really any place in your brain for it to be hiding. Is that?
I think that's like it's a critical take. Like, I can understand what people mean when they say the ego, and I can understand what people mean in the context of when we're saying what is socialized and what is primal and the boundaries between that. I think that the ego, the id, and the superego are socializing factors.
Yeah, and I'm going to quote the first couple lines of Anti-Oedipus on this. What a mistake to have ever said the id. In the same way, what a mistake to have ever said the ego. It is a whole collection of ego functions that are all striving to keep different parts of you together. It's like you're different people throughout the day, different people striving to become different. It's not just like three drives pulling you in different directions. It's easy that these drives are themselves multiple.
I kind of just like smell a wrap up to the dream theory conversation. But I also just I just want to say very clearly and lucidly that I think we shoot ourselves in the foot when we look for meaning beyond our grasp. And I think that that's just the best way to put yourself in an existential crisis is to stress yourself out over what you're missing in a dream and what you're not remembering. You don't fucking remember anything, and don't try to remember anything because you're just going to suggest yourself.